Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede, and today we interview Congressman Ted Deutch. In a few days, he will be leaving Congress after serving more than 12 years to start a new job with the American Jewish Committee. During his time in Congress, he dealt with the aftermath of the Parkland shooting in his district, attacked the growing scourge of fentanyl, and helped pass needed legislation on animal abuse and cruelty. I began our talk by asking him about the emotion of these final days.
Well, I think about how fortunate I am, Jim, to have been able to do this job that so few people in history have been able to do, which is to represent their neighbors in the United States House of Representatives. I'm thinking about the people that I've met along the way, the colleagues here, the friends I've made. There's a lot that goes through your head after having had this experience.
So why leave then?
Well, I think we talked about this once before. I love representing South Florida in Congress, and I wasn't looking to leave, but this opportunity to transition to American Jewish Committee, where I'll work full time on enhancing the well-being of the Jewish community around the world and the state of Israel, and defending democratic values and pluralism. So a lot of the issues that motivated me to get into politics in the first place, and it's a rare opportunity to continue the kind of work that I've done on a global scale. So that's why I'm leaving, but it doesn't make the decision easier, and it doesn't mean that I leave without obviously a lot of emotions that have guided me throughout, and that people that I'll be thinking about for the rest of my life.
Later, I want to talk to you about the work with the American Jewish Committee, and I think it's prescient too with the ADL just issuing a report in Florida, hate in the Sunshine State, showing the rise of white supremacists and anti-Semitic groups here in the state. But for now, let's talk for a second just about what you see the state of politics is, how it has changed, particularly there in Congress, over the 12 and a half years you served. Are you optimistic or pessimistic?
Well, I couldn't do this job if I weren't optimistic. And I continue to be optimistic. And I know it, look, I know the way this comes out, but I continue to be optimistic because I really believe in our country, and I believe in the American people, and I believe in democracy. That said, Jim, this is a really challenging time, and we're not that far removed from January 6th, and what that moment meant for our democracy, and the very real challenge to our democracy, and the attack on the Capitol. That's still reverberating around this place. And when you think about the number of people who refused to certify the outcome of the election and have made apologies for some of the activities the attacks that went on here, it makes it challenging. But ultimately, we don't have a choice. We have to make our democracy work, and that's going to it's going to be challenging, but it's really important work. And as someone who has spent an awful lot of time over all these years really trying to have good working relationships, friendships with colleagues of mine, not just the ones I agree with, but the ones whose opinions differ from mine in a lot of respects, I think that I think we've got to find our way through, and I think there's a way to do that. But last thing I'll say on this, Jim, it starts with recognizing that we can have differences of opinion, but it doesn't mean that if I disagree with you that you're evil, or if you disagree with me that somehow I pose an ongoing challenge to America. We've got to figure out how to get through this.
Well, here's where I'm more pessimistic than I think you are. I would have thought January 6th was the moment where the fever broke, that that it had gotten to such a point where it would have snapped folks back to reality of how dangerous this was. But as you point out, we continue to see candidates running across the country, Republican Party candidates still denying the election was valid, still echoing support for the former president in a way that is both scary and dangerous. I would have thought January 6th was that watershed moment, but we've glided right past that. Why do you believe that to be the case?
Well, I would differ with you some. I wouldn't say we've glided right past it. I think the January 6th committee has done really important work in highlighting exactly what happened that day and exactly the threat that it posed to our country. And I know that I acknowledge that there continue to be those, there continue to be conspiracy theorists who have glided right by. But I think there's a much better awareness now because of the work of the committee. And remember, there's a report that's going to come lay all this out clearly that will remind us just what the significant threat was to our democracy at the moment. That's what we're going to have to build from. And there's an election coming up, and we'll see how that plays out. But just because there are still some conspiracy theory espousing people in politics doesn't mean that represents the future of our country. I would argue strenuously that it doesn't. And I think as we head through this election, I'm confident that there will be a strong showing on election day for sanity and for the rejection of conspiracy theories and standing instead for truth and the need for us to repair our democracy.
Except here's what I will say. You talk about members of Congress from across the aisle who you can have friendships with, that you can have conversations with. You need more of that. There needs to be more of that. And yet, so many of those members are leaving. Whether it's Adam Kinzinger or Liz Cheney, or I can cite another. I think at least 8 out of the 10 Republicans who crossed party lines and voted for impeachment are all gone. I think the Republican Party has done a very good job of weeding out those dissenting voices, those moderate voices. Am I wrong?
Well, the question is, how do you get to the fundamental issue of breaking the fever the way you described it before?
Well, if January 6th, if an attempted insurrection doesn't break that fever, what will? Well,
we'll see what happens in the election. But regardless of what happens, the future of our democracy doesn't rest on a handful of members who are retiring from Congress, not Republicans, not me, no one. This place is going to go on. There are 435 members of Congress who will be sworn in January, and they're going to have to figure it out. Jim, this gets back to the question: am I positive? Am I optimistic? You only have two choices here, and this is fundamental for me. There are two choices you have. We can look at this place and say, my God, the challenges are enormous, and we're right around an election, and I don't know, given the people who are leaving, all of these people, and we're looking at impeachment vote as the deciding factor, all these people are leaving, that I don't know how this place is going to go on. Well, that's a luxury we don't have. The Congress is going to be here, and we're going to have to figure it out going forward. And there are colleagues of mine who are coming back, Democrats and Republicans alike, who are going to have to figure out how to work together. And I know we're then rolling into a presidential campaign and all the challenges that will bring. But the fact is, there have to be ways to come together, and there are every day.
Well, wait. So here's what I would say. You keep saying there has to be ways for us to come together, and I think that this is part of the, and I'm going to use this word cautiously, the arrogance of American politicians. You know, just to believe that because we've been a democracy for 246 years, we'll always be a democracy is, I think, a fundamental mistake.
No. I'm not saying that. And respectfully, I don't think it's arrogance that suggests that our democracy is so precious and special that it will automatically go on. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and I think there are a lot of us who feel this way, is that it is so precious and requires a lot of work and a lot of effort to make it so. I don't take for granted. It would be arrogant. I don't disagree. For me to sit here and tell you everything's going to be fine. We're all, Congress is going to go move forward. There'll be a new Congress. They're going to be great. We're going to put this in the rearview mirror and focus on the issues that everyone wants us to focus on every day. It would be arrogant for me to tell you that. That's not what I'm saying, Jim. What I'm telling you is, having been here as long as I have, that there will be a new Congress, and there are those who are committed to working hard to make sure that this place really functions on behalf of the American people. It is not without challenge. It is not without enormous concern about the future. It is because of the need to meet those challenges and address those concerns that we'll be able to get through this. But I don't want you to think that I take any of this for granted, because I don't, and you shouldn't, and your viewers shouldn't.
When we come back, we turn to Governor DeSantis' decision to fly migrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard. Stay with us.